everybody, it's Mrs. R again. You should have your trigonometry notes out. Remember, this is 8-4 in your packet, and this should be on your third page. You're just going to go ahead and fill in the blanks here. If you don't have your notes out, go ahead and pause me until you have them out, and then you're just going to fill in the blanks. And once you're done with that, you can press play, and I will explain everything you just wrote. Okay, so this example asks us to find the missing lengths. So that means we are looking to find this length right here and this length right here. But before we do any of that, we have to first label our triangle. And so we look at the angle that we're given. That's this 41-degree angle right there. And I'm going to go ahead and circle it. Okay. And then we label just like we did when we were finding the trigonometric ratios before. So we identify our hypotenuse, and remember that is always across from your right angle. So segment AC would be your hypotenuse. And then you look at your angle and you see what other side is helping to form it. The other side that's helping to form it is segment AB, so that makes segment AB your adjacent side. And then finally, you label your opposite side, which does not help form the angle that you're talking about. So this would be my opposite side. Okay. And then your next step is to determine which trig function you want to use in order to find your missing lengths. So we have two missing lengths here that we need to find. So it really depends on which side length you want to find first. I prefer to find my hypotenuse first, right here. So I am going to be looking for the trig function that's going to have the hypotenuse in it. And then the only measurement that I have is my 6 inches right here. So that means that I'm going to also need the trig function that has my opposite side in it. So I am looking for the trig function that uses the opposite and the hypotenuse. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to write my mnemonic device up here above where it says example. Remember Sakatoa, she's our best friend. Okay, so now I am looking for where I can see OH, because I am looking at my hypotenuse and my opposite side. So you should see that right here with SOH, which means that we're going to use the sign in order to find out what our hypotenuse is. Okay. Now remember, sine is opposite over hypotenuse. So we're doing the sine of 41 degrees because that's the angle we're talking about. And it's going to be equal to the opposite side, so 6 inches, over the hypotenuse, which we don't know what it is. So I decided to abbreviate hypotenuse with HYP. Okay, and then so we have an equation we can solve here. Because we've spent so much time working with proportions, I think it would be easiest to just go ahead and set this equation up to be a proportion. So all you have to do is throw your sine of 41 degrees over a 1, and then boom, you have a nice proportion right here. Okay, and then we are ready to begin solving. So to solve a proportion, remember you just cross multiply. So we're doing the hypotenuse times the sine of 41 degrees right here, and then it's going to be equal to 1 times 6, which is of course 6, and then we're just going to solve for the hypotenuse. So if you look at this equation, what's happening here is that we have the hypotenuse times sine, or sine times the hypotenuse. So to eliminate this multiplication by sine of 41 degrees, we have to divide both sides by the sine of 41 degrees. So that is what is happening between this step and this step right here. We are just dividing both sides by the sine of 41 degrees. So if I were to show my work a little better, I would have division by the sine of 41 degrees on both sides of my equal sign here. Okay, and then you're ready to just put that in your calculator. Now when you put that in your calculator, you do want to be careful to make sure that your parentheses are in there properly and all of that good stuff. Okay, but then you end up with your hypotenuse being equal to approximately 9.15 inches. And remember, the inches just come from up here in your original measurements. We have inches right here. So that means all of the sides are going to be in inches. And now I can go back up here to my picture and write in my measurement for my hypotenuse. That way I can keep track of which sides I have and which sides I still need to find. So if you look at your picture, you can see that we now have our hypotenuse as well as our opposite. So we are now looking for our adjacent. Now if you refer back to SOHCAHTOA, which you should have written on your notes page that we're doing this problem on, then you should see that we have already dealt with SAW, or SOH, for finding our hypotenuse. And we have our opposite, and now we're looking for our adjacent. So we are looking for a trig function that uses the adjacent side. Now you could use the cosine to find your adjacent side, but here's the problem with that. When you use cosine, you're going to use the adjacent and the hypotenuse. And our hypotenuse is not an exact answer. We had to round down here toward the bottom when we found our length of our hypotenuse. We rounded to the nearest hundredth. So this is not an exact length right here, and we don't want to use a rounded number if we don't have to. We have the option to use our opposite side right here, so we're going to use that option so that we can have less round off error, because remember, the more precise we can be, the better our lives will be. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to look for the trig function that uses the opposite side and the adjacent side. And if you look closely at your SOHCAHTOA, you should find that that trig function would be tangent. So we are going to use the tangent of 41 degrees to help us find our adjacent side. So now we are looking to use the 6 inches, the tangent of 41 degrees, and we're going to be looking for our adjacent side. So that would give us the tangent of 41 degrees is equal to 6 divided by the adjacent side, and that's just because the angle we're talking about is the 41 degree angle. The opposite side is equal to 6, and the adjacent side is what we're looking for. Okay, and then just like before, we're going to change this so that it looks like a proportion, just by throwing tangent of 41 degrees over 1 right here. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to cross multiply. We're going to do the adjacent side times the tangent of 41 degrees and set it equal to 1 times 6, which is 6. Okay, so that gives us the adjacent side times tangent of 41 degrees equals 6. And then in order to solve for our adjacent side, we would just divide both sides of that by the tangent of 41 degrees, and I will show my work here. And that is what brings us down to here. right here, where we have the adjacent side is equal to 6 divided by the tangent of 41 degrees. And when we put that in our calculator, we get approximately 6.90 inches. 6.90 inches is what you should get. And then you can go back up to your triangle and you can write that answer in there. I don't really have adequate space to do this. But there it is. And now we have found all of the missing sides of our triangle. Okay, now on this slide, all you are doing is determining the value of x, so all you have to worry about is finding the side with the x on it. You do not have to find all of the missing sides, so that's the beauty of this slide. I would like you to go ahead and try this slide and each of the next ones. And I'm going to have separate videos that will explain a couple of these problems. But right now, my video is a little bit too long and I'm not going to be able to upload it if I continue to go. So you're just going to do this slide and then you're going to pause me. And then you're going to do the next one and you're going to pause again. And you'll do the following one. And if you need to check your work, you can look up another video that I'm going to make for you. Here is your next slide. Go ahead and try these and make sure you're showing all of your work, even if you think you don't need to. And here is your last slide of problems. Make sure you're showing all of your work.